Good evening.
Order. Let the roll call show that all board members are present. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In which the community can participate in regular school board meetings. The first public comments section on the agenda is for addressing current action items that are on tonight's agenda. These comments must be submitted by noon on the day of the meeting. The procedures for submission are posted on our website under Board of School Trustees. The second public comments section is for general comments and does not have to be specific to an agenda topic. If you wish to address the board during the general public comments section of the meeting, please put your name, address, and topic on a card and give to Deb Hayes at the start of the meeting. Deb is raising her hand. All public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual, with a total of 30 minutes allotted for each public comment section on the agenda.
Item 2.1, board members taking their oath of office. Ms. Jones.
Mic is on. Please don't touch. Oh, I touched it. Okay. All right. Mr. Castro, Dr. Schwarz-Wolf, and Mrs. Cinder, please raise your right hands. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Indiana and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this governing body. So help me God. Congratulations.
Item 3.1, individual public comments on action items. There are none. Item 4.1, election of temporary chairperson. As vice president, I will open the floor to ask for nominations for the temporary chairperson.
I nominate John Castro for our temporary chairperson.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any other nominations? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor for John Castro as temporary chairperson, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Castro.
All right. I will now open the floor to ask for nominations for the office of president for the term January 2025 through December of 2025. Is there a nomination?
Schwarz-Wolf, I nominate Kyle Dempsey for president.
Is there a second? Oh, you don't need a second. Or do we need a second?
We do,
Okay,
we
okay.
should. I second it.
Okay. Oh, yes. Is there any discussion? Oh, sorry. Is there any other nominations? All right. Seeing none, is there any discussion? All right. Seeing none, I will now call for a vote. With only one nomination, all of those in favor of Kyle Dempsey as president, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? I will now turn control of the meeting to our new president, Kyle Dempsey. Congratulations, Mr. Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Item 4.3, Board Vice President. I'd like to open the floor to ask for nominations for the office of Vice President for January of 2025 through December of 2025.
Schwartz Wolf, I nominate Kristen Smith as vice president for this year.
Any second?
Castro, second.
Any other nominations? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 4.4, election of board secretary. I'd like to open the floor for any nominations for the office of board secretary for January of 2025 through December of 2025.
Schwartz Wolf, I nominate John Castro as secretary.
Smith, second.
Any other nominations? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Castro as board secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 4.5, appointment of corporate treasurer. Dr. Heller, do you have any recommendations for the board treasurer?
I do. I recommend that the board appoint Ms. Jessica Espinoza as corporate treasurer.
Is there a motion to approve Ms. Espinoza as corporate treasurer?
Castro, I move that we appoint Ms. Jessica Espinoza as corporate treasurer.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Ms. Espinoza as corporate treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 4.6, corporate purchasing agent. Dr. Heller, do you have a recommendation?
I do. Once again, I recommend that the board appoint Ms. Jessica Espinoza as corporate purchasing agent.
Is there a motion to approve Ms. Espinoza as corporate purchasing agent?
Castro, I move we appoint Ms. Jessica Espinoza as corporate purchasing agent.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 4.7, legislative liaison for the Indiana School Board Association from January of 2025 through December of 2025. I appoint Dr. Ingrid Schwartz-Wolf to serve as legislative liaison to the Indiana School Board Association for January 2025 through December of 2025. Item 4.8, policy liaison to the Indiana School Board Association for January of 2025 through December 2025. I appoint John Castro to serve as policy liaison to the Indiana School Boards Association for January of 25 through December of 2025. Items 4.9, school board representative to the Munster Education Foundation. I appoint myself to serve as representative to the Munster Education Foundation for the term of January of 25 through December of 25. Item 4.10, Strategic Planning Committee representative for the school board. I appoint Amy Cinder to serve as representative to the Strategic Planning Committee for January of 2025 through December of 2025. Item 4.11, PTO President's Committee School Board Representative. I appoint myself to serve as representative to the PTO President's Committee for January of 2025 through December of 2025. Item 4.12, school board member as non-voting advisor to the Munster Redevelopment Commission for the term January 2025 through December of 2026. I appoint Mr. John Castro to serve as non-voting advisor to the Munster Redevelopment Commission for January of 2025 through December of 2026. Item 4.13, school board member as representative to the Park Board for January 2025 through December of 2025. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for school board representative to the Park Board.
Schwartz-Wolf, I nominate Kristen Smith to serve on the Park Board on our behalf.
Castro, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of Mrs. Kristen Smith, excuse me? No, I guess we should. Are there any other nominations? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Ms. Kristen Smith being our school board representative on the Park Board as a voting member, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item 4.14, salaries for school board members for January of 2025 through December of 2025. Mr. Castro.
The board must establish salaries and compensation for board members for 2025. The current annual stipend is set at $2,000, and Indiana statute allows for an additional per diem of $112 for regular school board meetings and $62 for all other meetings, such as executive sessions. The recommendation is to maintain the annual compensation of $2,000 plus per diem of $112 for regular meetings and $62 for all other meetings for the year 2025.
Is there a motion for the board to continue with the same annual salary of $2,000 plus an additional per diem of $112 for regular board meetings and $62 for all other meetings for the year 2025?
Schwartz-Wolf, so moved.
Is there a second?
Castro, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 4.15, temporary adjournment of the regular meeting. At this time, going to ask for a motion to temporarily adjourn the regular board meeting and open the Board of Finance meeting.
Castro, I move we temporarily adjourn the regular meeting in order to open the Board of Finance meeting.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So this will temporarily adjourn the regular meeting in favor of the Board of Finance meeting. Item 5.1, call to order as a Board of Finance. At this time, I'll call the Board of Finance to order for the purpose of organizing the board. Mr. Castro.
By law, the Board of School Trustees shall meet as a Board of Finance by electing a president and secretary for a term of 1 year.
Is there a motion that the Board of Finance officers for 2025 be the same as those for the regular Board of School Trustees?
Castro, I move that the Board of Finance officers for 2025 be the same as those for the regular Board of School Trustees.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 5.3, investment report, Mr. Melby.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I do believe all of you have 3 handouts in front of you. The first one is the one called Interest Earned in 2024. We will be going over our investments. In this table, you will see the months January through December, and you'll see every bank and or account that we have for the district. In each month, January, February, and so on, you'll see the amount of interest that was earned
in those accounts. If you go all the way to the far right, you will see the totals, and you will see what we earned this year from our investments. If you can jump to the next one, which is our investment financial update. I'm trying to roll two things in together with this one. You'll see that I gave you the amount of interest earned from 2013 to 2024. This is by far our best year. We've had a very successful year. As you know, and through your direction, we have a laddered approach in our investments. So basically, every month that we are putting out an investment, we have an investment coming back in. Underneath that, you have the board policy for our investments for your review. The next page, you will see all of the outstanding investments that we have. Actually, the next page and a half. You'll see the bank that we have the investment with, the principal, the source or the fund that it's coming from, the interest rate that we received, remembering that any interest rate that we had, we put this out for bid. So it's just not us picking one. We put it out and banks bid on it. Those are the highest rates that we received, the purchase date, and the maturity date. You'll see almost every single month over the next 2 years, which is as far as we can go out per our policy, is taken up. You'll see on the next page the total amount of money invested. And again, every month, what we do is we chart exactly how much money, not exactly, excuse me, how much money we believe we're going to spend every month over a 7-year period. We can only use 2 years for our investments. Then we look at our revenue that we feel, and you know, Mr. Castro, I'm going to be very cautious on our revenue. Then we're going to look at our expenses that we feel is going to happen for the month, and I'm going to go probably a little higher on that just to be safe, to make sure we're liquid enough. And then we're going to try to invest the rest of the money to make sure we're maximizing our dollars for our taxpayers. If you look at the bottom or the middle of that page, you'll see the 2024 expenditures versus budget comparison. As you know, we do quarterly reports, so this is the end of the year. In the education fund, at first glance, if you just look at the cash sheets, it'll look like we went over our budget. It'll look like we spent 108%. But remember, just a reminder to the board and everybody out there, transfers do not count against your budget. So in actuality, we spent $24 million in our education fund approximately, which is 84.33% of our approved appropriations for the education fund. We're going to ask for, as always, Mr. Castro asked this question, just because we ask for a certain appropriation doesn't mean we're going to spend the entire amount. We're going to be prudent with the money, make sure we're doing what's best for our kids, but also being good stewards of our cash. In the operations fund, this one's shown to you a little bit differently. You'll see the total approved budget, and then you'll see our expenditures, and then you'll see that we only spent 72% of our budget, but that's not really the true story. If you look at the cash sheets, we only spent that much in, actually, it's a little bit different in 2024. We get to carry over, or an encumbrance, that will count against the 2024 budget. So we actually have approximately $1.2 million of encumbrances that will count against the 2024 budget. So actually, in total, it's closer to 82%. In the referendum fund, you'll see the total budget, and just like the other one, we're sitting right around the 80% mark on what we are spending as of the approved budgets. Pending any questions on the financial report and the quarterly report, I will move on to the next thing.
I just had one quick question for you, more for public knowledge. You're talking about investments. These aren't some crazy high-risk investments that the board has approved, or something that you've decided to take on your own to put money and squirrel it in some crazy fund. So would you care to just address the type of investments?
We
that
can't
you're
go out
looking-
and buy Google or Bitcoin, although it would be a little fun. But when we talk about investments for school, the first thing, a large portion of that is negotiating with banks on an interest rate. So we negotiate with them to get the best interest rate we possibly can in our subdivision of Munster. After that, we can go out for bid. We mainly do just CDs. There are a couple other things that we can do, but the rate of return hasn't been as good as CDs. So far, over the last year and a half, all I've done are CDs. So just guaranteed things that are going to be coming back for the school town of Munster.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Item 5.4, disposition of old outstanding checks. Mr. Melby.
Yes, sir. This is a procedural item that we'll do every year. After 2 years, if a check isn't cashed, we need to come to you and ask for permission to void out those checks. Over the last 2 years, in total, it's approximately $2,000 between the high school, the middle school, and central office. So with your approval, we will void out those checks and then return them to the funds as are listed on your sheets that you have in front of you. They will be returned to the appropriate funds.
You want to move on to any questions or comments, guys? Fiscal indicators?
All right. Fiscal indicators, this is going to, please bear with me a little bit, and there's a reason for it. One, the more I talk, the more I cough. And I'm trying my best. Government students, you didn't do a great job researching what day you're going to, because this is a little bit longer of a financial report. So we have what is called the Distress Unit Appeals Board, which is known as DUAB. DUAB puts out fiscal indicators on how schools are doing financially. And I still have to talk, several things to say before he gets this up here anyhow. I could tell you, I've seen DUAB, members from DUAB talk at convention. They are extremely brilliant, very smart people, and the process and the theory is awesome. They're basically saying, hey, here are your fiscal indicators. These are going to tell schools, in case they don't catch it beforehand, you may have some issues financially down the road. So that's their premise. With that being said, it doesn't work for the school town of Munster. And they know it doesn't work for the school town of Munster. As you recall, last year when I gave this presentation, I pointed out to you an asterisk that was on the first page of this presentation, stating that any and all investments were not taken into account in the data that was collected. So, actually, in the meeting that we went to, they called it the Munster and Noblesville rule, because I guess we're the only two schools investing. This information will not be 100% accurate. But I added extra slides into your packet, and I've added extra information, which I think will clear up a lot of the things that we're going to talk about. What's that?
And the reason is because the state of Indiana has no way in their specific funds right now to record an investment in a CD. Because it's invested in a CD, it cannot be, by rule, shown to be in either the education, the operations, or the referendum fund. And so what happens is that money is shown as going out because we've invested it with nothing coming in. And so when they use this data, there's, as Bill said, he's got, in 2023, millions of dollars invested that are missing from our report, which makes our fund balances look very weird. And he'll show you a couple examples.
The best part and the worst part of it, this year they tried to fix it, and it actually made it worse. And I'll explain it to the best of my knowledge, because again, I'm going off of their data. So I have to make some assumptions on what happens, and I think I know pretty well though. Well, they give you certain slides to show, and they asked us to go through these. So again, that's why I'm going to go through these slides that are not 100% accurate. The other thing I want to point out is it's usually a year behind. A lot of the data that they give out is a year to a year and a half behind. So in 2023-24, our ADM in the fall count was exactly 4084, or not exactly, it was 4084 point, I think, 2, but they do round it. Our net assessed value was approximately $1.98 billion, and I guess the estimated population of the town of Munster was just under 24,000. Now, this is actually a very good slide, and if you think of the revenue for a school district, one of the things that drives the revenue for a school district are our students. We're a person profession. Kids are what drive what we do. So the more students we have, the more revenue we have in our education fund. So if I'm DUAB, and again, when I talked to DUAB personally, I called them, I was like, hey, I have to guess on if we're positive or negative on these, and they're like, yeah. And I go, well, wouldn't it be nice if we knew if we were on the naughty list or not? And they said, well, if we don't call you, you're good. So They didn't call us, so I know we're good. But I'm going to assume that this would be a very positive fiscal indicator, the first one. If you look at it, from 2015 to 2016, that year, up to 23-24, we've increased how many students we had. More importantly, if you look straight across, it's pretty flat across the entire way. Now again, we did lose a little ADM this year, which we knew was going to happen because we had a very large senior class. That information is not on here yet. It's a year behind. But overall, it's very flat. Even the slight decrease we had this year would not be considered something I would find material. And I don't think DUAB would either. If you look at the next page in your packet, I also showed you the information a little bit better because I love the bar graph, but it doesn't give you the numbers. You have to sort of estimate. So I gave you our actual numbers from 2014 to 2025. 2025 is in red because the second count hasn't happened yet, so that's an estimate, but the first count is accurate. You see that we've increased our ADM all the way through 2020. We did have a decrease in 2021, which we all know what happened in 2021, which was, you know what, we won't even mention it. So a lot of schools had a dip, and then we came back, rebounded after that. We've had 2 solid years after that as well. If you look in the right-hand column, the other thing that drives the revenue in the education fund is the amount of per pupil funding from the state. So schools get a different amount of money per kid. I could tell you in the school town of Munster, out of approximately 372 schools, we're around 360th. Last time I checked on where our funding level is at. It's better than it's been in the past. So that's another way to look at the information. If you look at the next page, which is also a very big indicator that DUAB doesn't use, is our assessed value trends. Our net assessed value, that drives our tax levies, right? So our tax rate with our net assessed value is going to drive our levy. Our assessed value trends have been very positive. This last year actually was one of the larger increases, approximately a 10% increase in the net assessed value trends. All right. If there's no questions, I'm going to move on to the next indicator. Yes, sir.
Real quick, Mr. Melby, were you exaggerating when you said it's just Noblesville and school town of Munster?
No, that in the meeting they called it the Munster and Noblesville rule.
What
that
does
they're-
a Carmel or a West Lafayette School Corporation or a Zionsville School Corporation do?
Well, I can tell you, you can take it. Go.
We're not sure, but we believe in talking to other business managers, a lot of people don't do the work to go out to get the CDs, so they just take the interest that they get off their normal checking accounts. Mr. Melby, obviously, he will make our local banks bid out for that as well. They're just using that as their income. A lot of times, they can't project the cash flows far enough that they can do a CD that could be 6 months to 12 months. The amount, and I'll say this because that's why Bill won't, the amount of work it takes to make sure you track that cash flow, that money from a CD is coming in when more can go out or not go out, is a lot of work that business managers just tend not to want to do. And I do believe right now, Noblesville's business manager and Munster's business manager, the only two that are doing the work to make sure those CDs are there to do that long-term planning. The other thing is, there are a lot of schools in the state who, in better terms, are living paycheck to paycheck. So they don't have any cash reserves to even try to go out and invest because they don't have the ability to do that. So those are probably the two main reasons.
You're going to get a better rate if you go out for the CD, but I think even more importantly, we know what we received in 2024. We will receive a similar number in 2025. That's not a guess. It's a fact because we've already tracked it out. We will receive a similar number again in 2026. We can go 2 years out per our board policy, So we know what revenue is going to be coming in that year. If you just use the bank accounts, you know how that is. The Fed rate drops and your interest rates drops. Well, if you lock into a CD, your number's locked in. And I will say, and I appreciate what you said, it's a lot of work from a lot of people. A lot of the funds that we do invest are from our construction funds. So when we receive the construction funds, we want to maximize those dollars. We want to get as many projects done as we possibly can and do them as well as we possibly can. To do that, I need to invest that money. The only way I can do that is I have meeting after meeting with Mr. Podskool, Mr. Begley, and we track out, okay, this is when the project's gonna start, this is when it's gonna end, this is when we're gonna have to pay architects, this is when we're gonna pay this, and this is how much is gonna get done by this date. So it is a group task. Please, it's a group task. So that's what we do. If we look at the next fiscal indicator, which is a great one, which is called fund balances, and this is about 90% accurate. So if we look at our fund balances, they looked at all of these funds from 2014 to 2023. I'm not going to talk about it all, but one thing that is great to see, if you look down here, and I think you can see my pointer, in 2014, 15, 16, we had things going downwards. We no longer have things going downwards. That's not 100% true. If you see these things going downwards now, right here and right here, we know that's going to happen. Those are federal dollars. Most of our federal grants, we have to spend the money up front, and then we get reimbursed. So depending on the day they're pulling the data, we may be a negative in those funds because we haven't gotten reimbursed yet. You'll also see when it was a green bar, that's when it was the general fund back in the day. Well, now they changed it to the orange bar, which was really nice because it was green, and then we increased in 2019, then we increased again in 2020, increased again in 2021, and then, oh boy, it looks like we decreased our cash balance in the education fund in 2022 and 2023. That is not correct. The reason why is on this slide, they didn't fix it yet, to the best of my knowledge, and they haven't put the investments in there. So none of the money that we have invested, and we have money invested from several funds, construction funds, self-insurance fund, education fund, and so on. So that would affect a lot of these slides. Let me manipulate the information a little bit and give you a little bit better look. If we looked at rainy day, our general and education fund, which those are the same thing, just depending on the year. We looked at our operational funds, operations, and then our referendum. This is a little bit better look for you because it's a little bit more understandable, right? You see our general fund was in the hole back in 2017 and before, and now we've made great strides to get out of that situation and build our cash balances. In your packet, if you turn to the next page where it says actual cash balances, I have put in our actual cash balances per year so you know exactly where we were at, starting at 2018 through 2024. I know you're going to take a lot of time and look at this, but if you went in any line, the education fund, the operations fund, the referendum fund, the rainy day, any of those, you will see none of those numbers decreased in any year. They only went in one direction. So our cash balance has improved, our cash standing has improved in each and every one of our big four that we talk about all the time since 2018. Actually, well before that, but the sheet was only so wide. Do you have any questions on that? Again, the information, to come to DUAB's defense, nobody was investing their money. So they didn't put a mechanism to take into account that issue. They tried to fix it, and I'm going to show you in this next slide how they tried to fix it. Annual deficit versus surplus. And I'm just going to really show you one thing and move on to show you that it's really wrong with what they tried to fix. If you go to 2023, this is a pretty cool metrics too. You look at all the revenue, which is the green bar, and all the expenditures, which is the blue bar. You see the blue bar is smaller than the green bar. So that means we should have had a surplus. If you go to their data, it says we had a deficit. Again, what I believe they did was take the revenue minus expenses, but they counted when we put the money into an investment as an expense. And I think that's how they came up with the number that they did. And again,
Expense is not recorded in the blue bar.
exactly right. If you talk to DUAB, they know that this is a Munster and a Noblesville issue. If we go into the next one, and this is another one where They really tried to fix the issue, but they didn't. If you look at this sheet, this is talking about a balance of money as a percent of expenditures. When I first took this position, they said you want to have around a 15 to 20% cash balance. Well, DUAB says that's a thing of the past. You're looking at a 45% cash balance is where they want you to be. They said the state average in the education funds around 35%. If you look at this, and I will tell you, I believe through 2019, maybe 2020, it's pretty accurate. We were at one time made approximately a negative 28% cash balance in the school district, and we built ourselves up. There's only one way we could have done this. First, we have a great school board, great superintendents over the time that were fiscally sound. We had to make tough decisions, and we cut positions back in, I think, 2018, 15, 16 started, and then continued through 18 to make this happen. And then we passed a referendum. Without the referendum, there is no way we could stay in the positions that we have and do the things that we're doing with our students. So without our community, our school board and superintendent that were fiscally intelligent, we have put ourselves in a much better position, but we do not have 108% cash balance. What I believe they did, and I'm going to change this to just looking at one fund, because maybe it'll make it a little bit easier to understand. If we just look at our education fund, yeah, we were 34% in the hole at one time. Then we built up to 31, 20, 10, and we built all the way up to around 37%. All of those numbers, I believe, are accurate. The last two columns where it says we have 113%, I wish we had 113%. We do not have 113%. They tried to put the investments back in, is what I believe, but they don't know what fund we invested from, and they put them in each and every fund.
So they totaled the investments and added them to every fund.
I can tell you, I know, but they are very intelligent people. They're hoping to have it fixed by next year.
To be clear, they didn't actually give us the money.
Yeah, they did not give us the money, that's a fact. But I can tell you what the number is this year. At the end of 2024, our cash balance, as compared to the 2025 approved budget, is 43.4%. If it's 43.3, don't be mad at me, but it's right there. So I know the actual number. I can't tell you exactly why it's messed up. I'm just giving you my guess. I think they put all of it in each and every pile. So this data is not great, but I can tell you it does show we're making great strides and we're in a really good place compared to where we used to be. Just not that big of strides is exactly right. Well, I hate to say this is my least favorite slide out of all of DUAB's slides, but it's actually not that bad since 2018. Basically, what they tried to do in this slide is they're trying to show you that your revenue is consistent. Now, if you looked at 2016 and then you look at 17, you look at 18, whew, that's a huge increase there. Well, what they're taking into account there is construction funds. As you know, when we get construction funds, we get a large amount of money, and then we have to spend those within 2 years. Depending on which year and what bond is passed and so on, it really can skew the information. But since 2018, what this does show is our revenue is relatively consistent. And the last fiscal indicator, which I believe is the only indicator that DUAB may consider a negative for the school town of Munster. I look at it as a great positive for the school town of Munster and its people. This indicator is one that DUAB may look as a negative. The school town of Munster has successfully obtained a referendum. The graph shows that the importance of the referendum revenue to our district. You can see that in 2023, that last year, that approximately 14% of our total revenue was due to the referendum. Without this referendum, we would not be able to sustain the current positions and programs that we have in place. I look at it as a great positive because our community stood together with the school and voted this in. But I can tell you if at some time the referendum is not passed, that's a large percentage to lose in a year. Those are the fiscal indicators that I need to report from DUAB. Do you have any questions? This entire packet has a little bit more explanation and a little bit more on how I think they mess things up. And again, I don't know what to say. It's the best I could do with their information. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Melby, for the report, and thanks for all your hard work. Item 5.6, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the Board of Finance meeting and return to the regular meeting.
Schwartz-Wolf, so moved.
Castro, second.
Any discussions? All those in favor of returning to the regular board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6.1, consent agenda. Mr. Trippenfeldis.
Mr. Dempsey, the consent agenda contains items 6.1, which include, I got to make sure I get the right ones here, the minutes of the public's work session that were held on December 10th, 2024, and the minutes of the regular school board meeting that was held on December 9th, 2024, as presented on the screen. It also contains item 6.4, the approval of the accounts payable voucher register as presented. It contains item 6.3, the approval of the payroll voucher as register as presented. Item 6.4, the approval of the personnel report as presented and viewable on the screen with the recommendations for employment, resignations, leaves of absence, requests requests to extend leaves of absence, and then those professional learning requests at the bottom. It also contains item 6.5, overnight field trips. And we have overnight field trip requests for the Munster High School Speech and Debate Program in February. Make sure I don't have anything else there. With that, the administration recommends that the board approve with one motion and one vote consent agenda items 6.1 through and including 6.5 as presented.
Would the board like any items broken down individually? Is there a motion to approve with one motion, one vote, the consent agenda items 6.1 through and including 6.5 as presented?
Castro, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items 6.1 through and including 6.5 as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7.1, donations. Mr. Trippenfeldis.
The administration recommends the donations as presented.
Any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the donations as presented?
Castro, I move we approve the donations as presented.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion finally?
As you will see on the screen, you'll see donations for Munster High School listed, for choir, football, wrestling, and just a lot for choir at this point in time. And then you'll also see donations for an athletic sponsorship for American Community Bank.
Any questions? All those in favor of approving the donations as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7.2, fundraisers.
The administration recommends that the board approve the fundraisers as presented.
Is there a motion to approve fundraisers as presented?
Castro, I move we approve fundraisers as presented.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion?
You will see there's a fundraiser for the Frank Hammond robotics team for t-shirt sales, and then you'll see the requests for the softball and girls track at the high school.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7.3, the Dell laptop purchase, Dr. Heller.
We recommend that you make a motion to approve the Dell laptop purchase as presented.
Is there a motion to approve the Dell laptop purchase as presented?
Cinder, I so move.
Is there a second?
Castro, second.
Any discussion?
So let me start by just saying that it's probably long overdue, time for a full replacement of our entire fleet of student and staff laptops. So this approval tonight would allow us to finalize the purchase of new laptops and Chromebooks for all students and staff. With this purchase, we're making a recommendation to purchase 5,000 total new devices, which will replace all student laptops and all staff laptops, as well as various desktop computers around our district that are all at the end of their life. This purchase also includes a 5-year warranty. A lot of credit goes to our IT director, Yarek Posdal, for working closely with Dell, our partners at Dell, to get a fantastic price on these devices. With this purchase, just kind of to break it down for you, our K through 1 students will be getting Dell touchscreen Chromebook devices. Our students in grades 2 through 5 will be getting 8 gigabyte Dell 14-inch touchscreen Windows laptops. Our students in grades 6 through 12 will be getting 16 gigabyte Dell 14-inch touchscreen Windows laptops. And our teachers will all be getting 32 gigabyte Dell 14-inch touchscreen Windows laptops.
Thank you, Dr. Heller. Is there a motion to approve the Dell laptops as presented?
Cinder, I so move.
Is there a second?
Castro, second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 7.4, land lease agreement with the town of Munster. Dr. Heller.
We recommend the board approve the land lease agreement with the town of Munster as presented.
Is there a motion to approve the land lease agreement with the town of Munster?
Castro, I move we approve the land lease agreement with the town of Munster as presented.
Is there a second?
Smith, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so Mr. President, this land lease agreement with the town of Munster will provide us with the land to build our new tennis facility. As I believe everybody's aware, this land is part of the community park property just west of the high school and just north of the Munster Community Pool. Our attorney, Miss Angela Jones, has worked with the attorney for the town of Munster, David Westland, on the lease terms and language that are in front of you. Really, at this point, the question is approving this so that we can begin work on the design and construction of that new tennis facility. If you have questions for myself, Mr. Begley, or Mrs. Jones about the project, we'd be happy to answer any of those.
Any questions, guys?
I just want to compliment our attorney. I know this took a lot of extra time, and also thank the town. This is what we should be doing, is town and school working together, and the fact that they were able to give us this they basically are, it's helping us, and hopefully we can work together on them using these courts as well. So I just appreciate the community working together.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 8, any items that may properly come before the board?
None.
Item 9, general information and discussion items. Item 10, Director of Financial Operations report. Not that you've spoken enough, Mr. Melby.
Thank you. I'm assuming you want me to go longer than, no, I will try to make this very quick. In our education fund, something that I do want to point out, because this is something you've never seen before, and this is a change in school education finance. In the December revenue column from transfer from another fund, as you know, curricular materials, most curricular material items can no longer be charged to parents. We had a curricular material fund. Now that curricular material fund had to be transferred in by December 31st of 2024, and all of those expenses will now be expensed from the education fund. So that's where that large increase in revenue came from. If you go down to, as I say many times, transfers from one fund to another, education to operations, remember that's got to stay under 15% or you're on the naughty list. I can tell you it's 13.94% if you look at just basic grant. If you look at all revenue, which is what they go by, In the education fund, it's at 13.34%, so we are well under the 15% that they recommend. And as I already said, we are within our budget. In our operations fund, you'll see we received the rest of our tax draw. You will see if you go down to purchases of buses, we received another bus and paid for it. The one thing I do want you to know or reiterate, I said it earlier, we do have $1.2 million worth of encumbrances, but it's planned for. It'll be planned for in your cash sheets when you see them next year, or next month, excuse me, and it's already there. In a referendum fund, there is absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. The referendum, the debt fund, our referendum debt, and our pension debt. What I do want to point out is we did receive our December tax draw, and more importantly, we made our debt payments. So all of our debt payments are done, and we ended out the year for 2024. The last thing I do want to add, we did finally, well, not finally, we've had it for about 14 days, I guess, our 1782 notice. Our 1782 notice tells us what our overall tax rate was going to be. I remember when I took over this job back in the day, I was told do not go over $1.41, try to keep it down by the great work of the school board. And I hope people understand, a lot of school boards, I'm sure, are great, but ours actually know the finances as well. With their leadership and the leadership of our superintendent, we actually got the tax rate down to under 1.27. So it's approximately 1.2688. So the promise that you made of 1.41, we've been at approximately $1.30 the last 3 years, and now we're down to $1.27-ish. Pending any questions, and I'm sure Mr. Dempsey doesn't want me to talk anymore, I could be done.
Any questions for Mr. Melby? Item 11.1, Assistant Superintendent's Report, Ms. Bergeron.
I think Mr. Trippenfeld and I would say that we didn't prepare much because we figured Bill would go a lot longer, but he was very fast. So just a quick update. We're in the midst of testing season, so this is a big time. So if all of our parents can make sure they're checking their emails and the newsletters that our principals send out regularly. We've got COGAT, WEDA Access, NWA, checkpoints for iLearn coming up. And then hopefully everyone has seen also on social media, our Ms. Brandt at EADS and Ms. Bevel and Ms. Pyrick have done an excellent job in promoting our PLTW work and training from our teachers. And so I'd like to thank Linda for hosting at her school and for her amazing teacher, Michelle Brandt, for leading us in that way, along with Ms. Karen Tomko and Amy Swartzel. That's it. Thank you.
Excuse me, nothing much. I do want to just add that this semester I will be going out to the schools for PTO meetings to do a short discussion on school safety. Much shorter than what I did for the ambassadors, don't worry, because that's a long one. But I'm taking a little bit from that, so we do a little overview of school safety. That'll start at Wilbur Wright this Wednesday, and then we're going to be going to most of the different PTOs throughout this the spring semester.
Thank you both. We will skip item 11.2, the Director of Exceptional Achievers Report, as Ms. Chikalis is sick. So we'll skip to 11.3, Director of Operations Report, Mr. Begley.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. I'll give you a brief overview of the current projects we have going. Elliott Chiller and Eads Chiller project, those are two separate projects, but very similar. They are going according to schedule. They'll be wrapping up at the end of February, early March. They're doing the electrical and plumbing connections to the towers and the chillers. So we will have air conditioning at both schools come this summer. The baseball soccer field conversion, the underground detention has been put in place. Those were those big yellow containers you saw as you drove down Columbia. There was a big open hole in right field that those went in. And then on Friday they had a conveyor which was moving the stone, because you also notice there's a giant mound of stone. The reason why we have so much of that stone on site is they have to clean it with water, which is very difficult in the winter. So we stockpiled it so we could work throughout these winter months. So that was being placed over the containers. So that's going to button up our underwater detention system that we need for that project. And then we're looking for some warmer weather to put in fence posts and concrete curb. And then after that, we'll be able to put in the remaining tile, stone, curb, and fence, and that will button up the project until we get some warmer weather. We need about 45 degrees to put in the carpet, the field turf, and we're hoping to do that mid-February. hopefully with some warmer weather. The fine arts, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is being put in place. Also doing some masonry. They're doing the column configuration in the band room to kind of open that space up, make it a larger room to meet the needs of the band as it is growing. The theater was turned over to the contractors, and they have demoed out all the seats, and they removed all the carpet, so the demo is still going on in the theater area. You'll notice if you go into the commons area of the high school, it's much brighter now. That's 90% complete. We are going to also replace those ceiling fans. We're going to put in a bigger fan, but the lighting is much brighter in there. That was a nice little project we did over the break. The bleachers, we're going to be doing the Wilbur Wright bleachers soon after we do the high school bleachers. The ship date for the high school bleachers is the 14th. We want to start demoing the bleachers in the high school come the 17th of March, put in the new bleachers and get that ready for graduation. And that will also include a new scoreboard and new sound system. In transportation, we had one driver pass their test, and that new driver is driving this week. And we did receive our new bus with the state police inspection. That bus is now on the road serving our students. Pending any questions, that completes my brief.
Any questions for Mr. Begley? Item 12.1, individual public comments. There are none. 13.1, individual board member reports. Dr. Schwartz-Wolf.
Welcome back to reality. I was hoping to get appointed as legislative liaison, so I do have a legislative liaison report. The first regular session of the 124th Indiana General Assembly started last Wednesday. It's predicted that they'll have over 1,000 different bills, and typically we get about 200 that are related to public education, schools. One of the bills right now does pertain to the making school board elections partisan. Again, they've done this the last couple of years. So again, Indiana School Board Association will definitely be against that. I know I'm personally very much against that. I plan on attending the Indiana School Board Association State House Day on February 18th in Indy. It's a chance for all the legislative liaisons and presidents and superintendents to meet with the representatives and then also meet with each other and see what they're doing in their schools. But I will keep you posted as I learn this position, and I'm excited about it. It's something I've never done before, but I'm learning a lot, and looking forward to sharing it with you. Thank you.
Ms. Sender, you want to say something?
Sure. I was able to attend the Indiana State School Board Association New Board Member Academy this past Saturday in LaPorte. It was a wonderful day, very educational, and made some great contacts there.
Thank you. Mr. Castro.
Thank you, sir. Just want to mention Redevelopment Commission. I actually missed the meeting. It was held last week because over the past year with the new town council, those meetings have tended to average an hour and 15 minutes. So I don't have to be there for the town council meeting, but the redevelopment commission meetings start immediately following. So I've been trying to time it to get there and make that meeting. I actually, 15 minutes I got there. They moved the meeting to 6:30. I got there at 6:45. Meeting was done. So as we've changed some roles, so have they. There's new leadership, and that new leadership also transfers over to the redevelopment commission. So hopefully that's a good forecast to see that those meetings will be a little bit shorter. But I'm excited to continue work with them. Even though I'm not there on town council business, it is a good opportunity for us to have a face there and just to kind of hear their meetings, see what's going on, kind of share information with everybody up here or anybody in the district that it might be pertinent to what the goings on between the town and the school town. And as Dr. Schwartz-Wolf mentioned, these are the things we should be doing. This is that kind of town, and it's great that we have the potential to do that. So I'm excited to continue working with them for the next 2 years. I noticed that it's January 2025 through December 26. So the redevelopment commission spot is non-voting, and it's a 2-year commitment. So excited to have 3 of my Mondays a month dedicated to Munster. So and just want to say welcome back, everybody. I know it's 4 degrees outside, but before you know it, you're going to be ready for summer. So hang in there. Thank you.
Mrs. Smith.
First, I'd just like to say Happy New Year to everyone. For my position on the park board, we have not met yet for January, but we will be meeting next week. We have a number of items on the agenda that relate to our strategic plan for the park board, as well as some upcoming decisions about updating playgrounds and new equipment in areas, as well as facilities that need to be added, such as a actual restroom at Westlake. So that is some of the top of mind discussions that we're having at the park board, and our meeting is next Tuesday, so I'll report on that at the next meeting. I also just want to mention and encourage everybody to attend PTO meetings. One of the things, I just had this quick conversation with Mr. Nolan, and he was like, well, I tell all the parents at the PTO meetings, but the parents aren't there to hear our admin reports. And it kind of stuck with me after he said that, because I always felt that one of the biggest benefits of going to the PTO meetings was hearing those reports directly from our principals, and not he said, she said. You actually hear it from them and can ask questions of them. So if we've gotten off the rails of not attending PTO meetings, jump back into it, because that is where information is being provided to all parents, and the ability to actually ask questions in person. So I hope you all do that. And Steve, I did want to say your presentation on school safety was outstanding, and I hope people do attend those PTO meetings to hear that as well. So, and welcome Amy. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Cinder, welcome and congratulations again. Welcome to your first board meeting. Hopefully I didn't bore you to death on some of these topics. Real quick, the Munster Education Foundation held their Holiday Lights fundraiser over the last month, and happy to report that they raised solely just this fundraiser by itself a little over $6,000, and that's not counting. They've switched up a little bit on how they do sponsors, where if you're a sponsor of Munster Education Foundation, you will be able to sponsor more than one event. If you take into the sponsors' donations, they were able to make a little over $16,000, all in a neighborhood, multiple neighborhood event around Christmas, and that's a testament to the hard work of the events committee for Munster Education Foundation. Also want to mention the other big fundraiser that the Munster Education Foundation holds is their Jeans and Jerseys event, which is on January 31st at Byway Brewery. It's from 7 to 10. If you want to purchase tickets, and there's multiple ticket levels, I believe, you can just go on the Munster Education Foundation website and purchase the tickets. It's always a fun event. Their goal is to sell 500 tickets, and the space that we're allotted at the brewery is more than enough. So it's not crowded, and it's a fun event to do something in the middle of winter. And last, I just want to make a comment and piggyback off what Dr. Schwartz-Wolf said about Ms. Jones and your work representing the school district with respect and the town. There's not a lot of towns and just school districts in the state of Indiana that it would have gone as seamlessly as it did because the town, I mean, let's face it, could have done a lot of things with that space, and they could have made money on whatever they had decided to do. But instead, they gave it to us for free, or essentially for free. So that is something we can wear our hat on. Happy New Year and welcome back, everyone. Thank you. Dr. Heller.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to officially welcome Mrs. Cinder to the board. Careful what you ask for. With that, it is School Board Appreciation Month. I don't know if you know that. It is School Board Appreciation Month. So I'm going to first start by just saying thank you to the 5 of you, but also to all of our former board members like Melissa Higgison, Ronna Stojic, and John Doherty. Though today I am happy that John's not here, so we don't have to hear him gloat about Notre Dame.
I'm actually getting texts right now.
I'm sure.
From him at a basketball game with
I'm sure.
pictures. Sorry, I just had to jump in.
Yes. But I think I can speak for a lot of us to say we've been very blessed to have such a fantastic group as a school board, but also great individuals. So with the spirit of School Board Appreciation Month in mind, I'm going to give the rest of my time to show a video that was created to show our appreciation for the work that you all put into this largely volunteer role. Do not count your hourly rate as a board member. It's really sad. So don't look at that huge stipend you get. Don't spend it all in one place. All credit to this video goes to Kim Pyrick, our Director of Communication, who went out into our schools to get some video footage to say thank you for the work that you all do.
Thank you for making our schools a better place. Thank you for being motivated, making decisions, and listening to our needs. Thank you! Thank you for everything.
Thank you, school board, for providing me opportunities to help me excel outside of the classroom and after high school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dad, for all the hard work you put in. Your hug is coming, senior year graduation.
Thank you so much, Dad, for all the hard work you do. I will hug you at 8th grade graduation.
Thank you, Dad, for being on the school board. I really appreciate it. Love you.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sportsroom, for all you do for the Munster school system. You always make sure to get all the students' opinions on any matter that's coming up in the school district, and always make sure that the students have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom, for all of your hard work. Thank you, Mom, for everything that you do. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Mom, for everything you do.
Thank you, Mom, for all the hard work you put in. I'm so glad to be at the school board. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mom. Proud of how hard you worked to become a school board member.
Well done.
Mrs. Myrick, thank you very much.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Dr. Albert. Does anybody know if Grand Mustang raffle, those tickets done?
Mr. Nolan, are the Grand Mustang raffle tickets done?
Nope, still got them.
Still tickets available?
February, give me a second, I'll tell you, the draw date is February
28th?
Yeah, last boys game, February 28th, boys game versus Whiting. Tickets are still available.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Grand Mustang raffle, $100, a ticket goes towards the Booster Club, and the winner will be announced February 28th at the Munster home boys varsity game.
You don't have to be present, but we want you there.
That's even better, yes. Item 15.1, announcements. Future meeting, January 27th, we have a public work session at 6 p.m. And then our next regular school board meeting is February 10th. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Schwartz-Wolf, so moved.
Castro, second.
That ends this meeting. Oh, excuse me, we got to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.